justice. All right. Well, welcome to episode 6 of I Fought the Law from the law offices of Hilbert and McRae.
Welcome, everybody. Today, we are sponsoring a little local beer in KOTO Brewing. I'd like to have it sit and face the camera, but the label is a little off-centered. So
hold it up by your mic there. Let's get that'll be the thumbnail. There you go.
They are not sponsoring us in any way, but KOTO Brewing is, half a block away from our
we're like
office?
4 doors down. So shout out to our homies that work there.
Yeah. And if you're wondering who this random third voice is, I'm the producer with the God mic, just in case they need me to look up random shit like that.
Well, introduce yourself, man.
Yeah. My name is Zach. I own Focus Filmworks, and I make podcasts for people around
and
here.
Zach is the reason why we look like this and not like we are randomly recording something in the back corner of our office with really shitty mics. Sorry about it.
Amazon started as a DUI and a DIY. Maybe a DUI.
How many beers have you had for DUI?
In a garage. So I Fought the Law started as DIY in the small conference room by the very noisy street.
I saw a meme earlier today, or just photo of then and now of Bezos and his wife, what they look like when they had started Amazon and then what they look like now. Yeah, they look different.
Like how Elon Musk was like balding.
Yeah, exactly. And now he's a stud. That's right. I said it.
Yeah,
Would you let Elon come on the podcast?
No, we discussed this last time.
How many beers? No, I didn't have any beers.
No, he's not invited.
Why is Elon Musk not invited? I forget your reason.
No douches on I Fought the Law. Marissa Tomei, Reese Witherspoon,
Taylor Swift,
Eddie Vedder. Was Tony Hawk in there? If he's not, we're adding him to the list now.
Just randomly throwing Tony Hawk in.
Tony Hawk. That dude kicks ass.
I agree.
Man, he's been skateboarding for 5 decades.
Elon, you want to come on? I'm looking.
I'll make an exception, but I'll call you
Elon
a douche.
Wants to come on. Brian's not invited to that podcast. Just be you and me drinking some KOTO beers.
Excellent. Episode 5 came out just this morning. It's on all the places, the YouTubes, the Facebook,
the interwebs,
what is it? What did Elon call it now? X.
Are we on X?
I don't know. It's not there.
No. Oh, no. I looked at our producer, Zach, and he said no.
Do you know why? No douches.
I disagree.
Okay. But it was kind of fun to listen to that because do you know what we were talking about at the very beginning of that episode when we filmed it? We were just getting ready to go on the float for the parade. The Christmas parade and then the party here at our office. And let's just tell the people it was awesome.
It was awesome.
It snowed.
It was magical.
Yeah.
No, it was so magical. We're walking up to the float, and we're the headlining float in our town's parade, and we've got our guitars and everything else, and we're worried that everything's going to get snowed on and wet because we got to wait for a couple of hours. We like hide everything, and it stops snowing. We get all set up, and I'm like, it's not going to snow because every year I say the magic is that it snows, and that's just awesome. Right as the parade starts, little flakes start falling.
Yeah.
It was magic.
Through the whole parade. And then we were the first float. So we got through first.
Right.
Then it was Blizzard City.
The second we got off, we get done with the float. We're then hauling ass up to our office to set up for
the party
and our band playing. And it's dumping snow outside and we're protected. It was perfect.
It could have not been more perfect. Kudos to our friend Chris Reed from First Federal Bank here in town for setting it all up. He arranged getting scaffolding and lights and snow machines, lasers,
bubbles.
He came through tenfold. Yeah, he nailed it. It was a lot of fun. We got some good feedback. And then we had our party here. And we didn't know what to expect. Again, we did this sort of as a replacement for our usual going out at Christmas time. The Hilbert McRae Elves. The theme was we're going on vacation, so it was island themed here, making you come to us. Everybody got lays. Everybody there was.
I thought you said everybody got laid.
Hey,
Well,
next year's party, it's gonna be awesome.
that's the theme of next year. 25 plus.
Uh,
25 plus.
Yeah.
but what we were thinking like
Half my age plus 7, so it has to be 25 plus. Sorry.
I'm in.
like what 60 to 80 people is sort
That's
of what we were
thought.
expecting. That would be a good crowd.
We had a lot.
We had a lot. At one point, staff counted, it was over 250 people in
That
here.
had circulated through, yeah.
The food was great. It was Hawaiian food. We had
And
lots of drinks.
We did not
had-
have enough space for everybody.
It was standing room only. Yellow Brick Cafe, also just 2 doors down from us, did a great job of hosting us in their space because we needed some extra space, not just our office.
Mm-hmm.
It's where the band played, where the comedian performed. It was, by all accounts, a rousing success.
Rousing success.
It was fun. It was stressful,
Oh, yeah.
but it was fun. It was a good way to start the holidays.
Yeah, it was. It was a good time. And another shout out to local Heath Harmison.
Killed it.
Killed it. Local comedian. Although I say local, but he tours internationally. I mean,
Yeah.
he goes all over the place.
And if you haven't already, I've pushed it a lot, but on heathharmison.com, he just released his own comedy special that you can get for like $10
It's awesome.
and watch it. And it is hysterical, worth every penny. So check out heathharmison.com and check out for his tour dates because he's doing the Gentleman Tour with another comedian and his teenage son, who is also a
right.
comedian at spots all across the country.
Yeah.
So we've got a kind of famous friend, and it's awesome.
So we plugged First Fed,
Yeah.
which great bank if you're here in Twin Falls. We plugged KOTO,
KOTO Brewing,
Heath Harmison,
Heath Harmison, Yellow Brick Cafe,
Yellow Brick Cafe.
and Kathy McRae.
Yep.
And
That's the awesomeness of Twin Falls, Idaho,
and
in a nutshell.
and Twin Falls City for throwing a great parade, for putting on a great city event.
You know,
each year.
I do have to give to our city for that. We've got some cool events. If you ever see an event, especially those mainly focused on downtown Twin Falls, come down. We've got a
lot
killer farmers market during the summer that always has local musicians. We've got a great Oktoberfest, great St. Patty's Day,
Yeah.
Christmas
The
time.
Halloween trick or treat around downtown is always packed with kids.
Yeah.
Anyway, the city does a great job with, and has done a great job in revitalizing downtown.
Yeah, I totally agree.
We got work to do still, but
Yeah.
that's progress. So good for them.
And we're looking at doing some other stuff, and hopefully it comes through. And hopefully one of these podcasts we can announce other tomfoolery that Brian and I are getting involved in.
A part of.
Yeah.
Anything for Easter. Do an Easter egg hunt.
We should do a Hilbert
One
Murray
free
Easter
lawsuit
egg.
Easter egg
with
hunt. We could dress
golden
up as
egg.
bunnies.
Suggesting things is dangerous.
Whoever gets the golden egg gets a free lawsuit.
Freelance.
Free criminal defense. You go do whatever you want.
There you
And
go.
I'll
This is your
defend you.
pass. It's
It's like the minor version of what's that
the
movie?
Purge.
The Purge, yeah.
The Easter
The
Purge.
Easter egg purge. The golden egg that allows you to do whatever you want.
That'll fly
Oh, boy.
great. That'll go great.
That is
We haven't
not the
even-
way criminal defense goes, by the way. You don't just spend a lot of money and get off scot-free. Sometimes it works, but
Yeah.
no. But
Uh,
personally, what have you been up to, Brian?
Well, Christmas was nice. My family went to Canada,
Mm.
Banff. We did some snowboarding. It was unseasonably warm up there, but we still had a great time. Beautiful,
Banff
huge
is awesome.
mountains. Here's the problem with drinking a beer on the podcast.
I'm burping.
I'm burping, and it's going to come across. And I'm sorry,
I'm waiting
podcast
for-
family.
I'm waiting for you to talk to where I burp, and I'm counting on Zach to cut out my burps.
I was gonna say, don't say
So just-
sorry to your family. Say sorry. I have to listen to it later and take it out.
Then we're really gonna belch.
Yes.
They're just gonna see you open your mouth and nothing happens.
Hey, is Hilberta McRae doing anything for Valentine's Day?
Are we?
No.
Oh, good.
The panic.
Like, man,
I was hoping you'd say, yeah, we've got something planned so that, Valentine's Day 2 weeks from today would be taken care of. So I would actually have some thought into what I'm doing for my beloved.
I've put some thought in what I'm doing for my beloved and some others, but thankfully it's not business related. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you? Christmas was good.
Christmas was good. So Brian and I own a cabin in the South Hills, just here, very rustic, off the grid cabin, and we spent a weekend there.
Yeah.
I've been snowmobiling there. I've been attempting to snowboard and getting a little better.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, my kids are killing it, and I'm killing myself. So there's that.
Yeah,
but the weather has started to change. Always in our neck of the woods, it snows a lot, but then right around the beginning of February, we get this like little teaser of like 50-degree weather. And yes, where we live, 50 degrees is warm right now. I'm guessing here in about a week or two, that goes away and reminds us of the hell that is Idaho winters.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. I haven't looked at any forecast.
I haven't either. But currently I'm just in this light flannel and I am warm, like too warm. That's how warm it feels.
You are?
Yeah.
Feels like air conditioning. Anyways.
It is. I turned it on so it wouldn't be so hot in here. Fuck you, Steve.
Sorry, Bonnie. You turned on our air conditioning on January 31st in Idaho.
I did.
Cool. Mm-hmm. It's nice in here.
It is nice in here. Well, the lights get
our
warm.
Staff, who's currently in another room, is cursing your name right now.
Yeah. And
going, why the hell is it so cold in here? It's a nice day outside. It's so Brian can wear his flannel during a podcast.
And there's good reason. But anyway, what's
the good reason?
I don't want to ruin the podcast magic, but full disclosure, we're filming 2 episodes today, and I wanted to be able to take off my shirt and be in a different shirt.
I'm in the same shirt.
That's what you get for not
just flipping
conversing with podcast God over here.
Yeah, that's true.
He gave me that tip. Anyway,
I'm gonna go put on a different shirt for the next one.
Or you could go shirtless.
Nobody wants to see that.
No, they don't.
Just run down to KOTO, see if they got some.
Go put on a hoodie.
Yeah, that's there
perfect.
You go.
Band's doing some new exciting things. We'll hopefully be able to announce some of those. Hopefully, maybe summertime.
Yeah. It'll be a while.
It's top secret. It's a project,
right,
but it'll be a whole lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, last time we talked about talking to cops or not talking to cops.
Yep.
And that was informative. That was good.
I honestly haven't heard any feedback from law enforcement, which doesn't surprise me. I highly doubt any of them watch this podcast. But if they do, I would love to hear feedback.
Yeah.
They know me. Email me, call me.
Email us.
See me at the courthouse.
The email for the podcast specifically is in the links below. I don't know.
Cool.
It will be.
Yeah, it will be.
I'm going to mark that right now.
But today, we're going to lighten things up a little bit.
Yeah.
In fact, it would have been a good day to have our buddy Heath on because we're going to talk about funny stuff.
He's going to come on soon, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the funny stuff that happens in the courtroom.
Yeah, when you tell people that you're a lawyer, and the truth is, most of the time when you go to the courthouse, it's
boring.
Yeah.
So back in the day, when I was young and spry, before the days of memes, there was the email forward. You remember the email forward?
Oh, yeah. My brother, another plug, now Dr. John McCrae out of Boise, he was the king of email forwards. I hated all email forwards. Except from my older brother. He like searched out the best and would send them. He was incredible.
Like a digest of sorts.
Yeah, it was like he was my filter. I wouldn't look at anybody else's, but if it came from John, I knew it was funny or awesome in another way.
So the email forward circulated quite frequently in the Farmers Insurance Utah claims office. And so we saw a lot of them. And one of them was always that would come up occasionally. The the funny courtroom things, like the things actually happened in the courtroom. There's not a chance any of that happened in the courtroom. But it was like, like I don't even remember some of them. I remember one that like the guy was inquiring of the doctor of how do you know they're dead, and the doctor's like, well, I saw their head in a jar because they were dead and they had preserved the brain for some reason. And then he's like, well, how do you know for sure they were dead though? And isn't it possible that they could still be alive? And
no way did that happen.
And the doctor responds, well, it's possible they could be a lawyer asking a doctor some questions in the courtroom right now because he has no brain. Anyway, it was that and the
Can you do right there? Perfect.
I got a drum set down. I should bring it in for all of my good jokes.
Yeah, it would be awesome.
But anyway, some funny stuff does happen and breaks up the monotony.
And so it's funny that we're talking about this, and I didn't even include in on this. Last month, we had that case out of Nevada to where the guy literally hurdled the bench to tackle the judge. It made national news. Everybody's laughing, but I went down a slight rabbit hole for about 2 days of watching funny stuff that happens in the courtroom or weird stuff. And it was an entertaining couple of days.
Yeah.
But
every once in a while, there's something interesting. I'll start out with kind of a low level humor one. Not that funny, but it was funny at the time.
Sure.
I had a foot surgery. And I was on crutches. I couldn't put any weight on my foot, and I couldn't put shoes on. So I'm just wondering, I had a sock on and with my suit and one shoe on the good foot, and it was a trial. And so we were going all day long, and I was trying to maneuver, and I walk around a lot when I argue.
Yeah.
And so with crutches, it was kind of awkward. And finally, the judge, the late Judge Stoker, great person, great man, goes, Mr. Hilberta, will you just please sit down? Like you're suffering trying to move around, and my foot really did hurt. And I was like, is that okay, Judge? And he's like, please, you're not going to offend me if you sit. And he's like, put your foot up. It was there wasn't a jury. It was just a court trial. And I was like, great, thank you, Judge. So I set my crutches down. I sit in a chair. I get another one. I pop my foot up, not realizing I'd put on my Darth Vader socks that morning. And he just looks at my foot, looks up at me, and he goes, is that Darth Vader on your sock? Yes, Judge, it is.
Did you finish your argument with the Darth Vader sock hovering in the air?
In the air.
Perfect.
And it was funny and everybody laughed. But then like 2 years later, it was like a substitute court reporter that day that was in there taking down all the testimony and everything. And I ran into her in a deposition, and she goes, oh my gosh, I've been waiting to have another case with you. I'm writing a book and I put you in it as the lawyer. You're not a main character or anything, but it's talking about a courtroom experience. And there's a lawyer who puts his foot up and has a Darth Vader sock on. So somewhere out there's a book by this court reporter that talks about the Darth Vader socked lawyer.
We need to find that and buy a copy.
Yeah, really.
But so Judge Stoker unfortunately passed away a few years ago. He was sitting district judge here in Twin Falls. His replacement, or the man that came in and replaced him as a judge, I don't want to call it Judge Stoker's replacement, but either way, is now Judge Harris. And Judge Harris has commented on your appearance in open court too, hasn't he?
He has.
And what did he say you look like?
He said I looked like the old G.I. Joe dolls.
No, it was a specific G.I. Joe though.
Yeah, it was the Kung Fu G.I. Joe. Because he had a beard and his hair was kind of long, and he would do this. And I didn't see it, but thanks, Judge, I think. So Kung Fu G.I. Joe lawyer. And
listen, anybody out there on the interwebs, you're watching this, you have a Kung Fu G.I. Joe, contact me.
Oh my God.
We'll negotiate.
Found it.
We'll negotiate. Did you find it?
Yeah, the G.I. Joe Kung Fu Grip Adventure Team.
That's the one. Can I see it? Can you turn your and hopefully you can put it up on the screen right now.
See it on there.
Oh, that's so Brian. A little bit darker hair, but yeah, especially back then because your hair's a little longer than it was.
Yeah, it was a little bit shorter then.
Thank you, Judge Harris, for nailing
I got to be
Kung Fu
honest.
grip G.I. Joe.
Yeah, he kind of did actually. Anyway, that was funny.
So looks and wardrobe malfunction. I'll give you mine. This happened like 3-4 months ago. I was in Gooding, Idaho, very small courthouse. I had my client next to me, and I had to approach the judge for something. I can't remember. It was a magistrate judge, Judge Robinson, good sport. And I went to stand up, and my pants tore basically from cheek to cheek. And I felt it. I heard it. My client heard it and looked at me like, what in the hell? And I sat back down real quick. All the while, Judge Robinson's waiting for me. And I snuck my hand down there and felt the
breeze,
the breadth of the damage, and went, oh shit. Sorry, buddy. So I stood up, I took my file, and I figured I've got a couple options. Either try to hide it,
yeah,
or lean into it.
yeah.
And I leaned into it and I said, Your Honor, for the record, my pants just tore cheek to cheek. And I must approach you with my file over my rear end. And Judge Robinson said, and I think this is a pretty direct quote, he said, I've always said that you talked more out of that end. And I walked up and I handed him, and the courtroom's laughing at me. And the funnier part was afterwards, I went to a local gas station that I always go to and grab a drink after court. And I walked in and I told the gal the story. And now every time I go to that gas station after court, she always asks me about my pants. Some gas station attendant. So it will live in infamy in Gooding, Idaho.
That is awesome. Yeah. There was a period of my life. I was younger. I would say dumber, but equally as dumb as I am now. But I found the word pants
smarter
to be really funny. So the number of times that you said pants in telling that story, I really enjoyed it on multiple levels. Pants.
You got to stop. No, that's just dumb.
It is dumb. Still on the wardrobe.
Yeah, I've got another wardrobe one as well.
This one is kind of funny, but we do things our own way.
Sure.
We're not the stereotypical stuffy law firm, and we sort of intentionally do it that way.
Yeah, we pride ourselves on being a little. We're respectful when we go into the courtroom.
Yes,
but some might see it as
being different.
Yeah, being different,
which is fine. Most of our clients like it. Most of the court staff like it. Most other attorneys like it. And it just feels right because it's us being ourselves.
And mind you, if we're in a jury trial, we're wearing a suit.
Right.
We're Billy business.
I had to show up for court one day.
You were covering for me.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had
that's
to.
right.
I know the story you're about to tell.
Yeah. Anyway, I had a suit on, looked nice, looked sharp.
You did.
And I also had a pair of boots, like dress boots on. And true to myself, sometimes I wear some kind of flashier things.
Right.
I had a pair of like bluish shoelaces on these boots. They weren't like outlandish. They weren't crazy.
But as I recall, your suit was blue as well.
I think so. Yeah. It
now,
was nice.
In normal life, blue shoelaces with a blue suit might make you a pimp. But that's what you chose to wear to the courthouse. Anyways, I'm sorry to interrupt. Continue.
They looked nice. They were classy. And they even had the little like steel aglets on the end instead of the plastic ones. You know what an aglet is, Steve?
Yeah, of course I know what that is. I don't know what you just said.
They're delicious. Everyone knows.
Aglet is the thing at the end of a shoelace.
Oh, yeah.
That's an aglet. Anyway, they were nice. One of the county prosecutors came up to me as I left the courtroom and looked down at my shoes and looked at my boots, and he goes, "Do you really think that's appropriate to wear to court?" And I said, 100% I do. And he goes, and walked off.
I've had a conversation with that same prosecutor, and obviously we're not going to name names on this. And he's more old school. Like he truly feels that the dress that one wears is a reflection. And he was commenting to me, it was during a jury trial on on a case, and we were waiting for the verdict, and we were talking about this, and he had commented that my client hadn't worn a tie. And I actually instructed my client to, and I'm starting to second guess whether my client should wear a full like suit to a jury trial. And I think it might be a good idea. But he was saying, yeah, I think there should be more regulation on courtroom demeanor. I disagree. I
disagree too, but yeah, I mean, don't show up in flip flops and cut off shorts, but yeah.
And I, for some
listen,
reason,
there's differing opinions on this, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I found this to be particularly funny. I don't hold it against this particular prosecutor.
I mean, go to like Cassia County, and the prosecutor, who I know and thoroughly enjoy as a human being, wears a bolo tie, and he's a cowboy. And he wears his cowboy hat, cowboy boots, and jeans a lot of days.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it. I don't care.
Be who you are.
Yeah, that's what I say.
Yes. Anyway, what's your other word?
Being who they are, speaking of that same prosecutor's office, I told this prosecutor this sort of thing, and I made her upset. And if she is watching for some weird reason, which I doubt she wants to hear me talk any more than in the courtroom, but if she is watching, I'm sorry for making this analogy, but during a jury trial, she wore an all pink suit, her hair up in a bun, a pink purse, in which, I shit you not, sorry, Bonnie.
I think Bonnie's okay with shit. I think it's really just
the F word.
The F word.
Okay. Well, I don't think I've yet to say the F word on a podcast, which is unusual because I say it a lot.
You say it a lot.
But I shit you not, she pulls out of her pink purse a little pink pouch that is filled with pink M&Ms. And I told her that afterwards, I ended up winning that trial, but that has nothing to do with it. I just wanted to throw that in case she is watching and she gets more upset at this. That I told her that she looked, what's the character off Harry Potter?
Dolores Umbridge.
Yeah, I told her that she looked like Professor Umbridge, and she got angry at me. And then I doubled down and told her, you're the one enforcing the minute rules in all pink. And I'm not a huge Harry Potter person, but she is. And that was basically me calling her Voldemort. And
then she got carried off by centaurs at
yeah,
the end of the trial.
Exactly. But she, I don't think she's forgiven me for telling her that she's Professor Umbridge, but either way, I'm sticking by it.
You could have gone Legally Blonde on her,
No, I wasn't going to go there.
No, because this was a better analogy.
Because she's the prosecutor. She's enforcing the rules. And
that particular one was a little bit ticky-tack.
No, that was a different one. But yeah, she had been ticky-tacking another one, but she won that other one. So I'll give that to her.
Right. I think that's something a lot of people don't appreciate against lawyers or with lawyers is they're like, oh, you guys must hate each other. No. Like, yeah, we can argue. Yeah, we can get really upset with one another.
I've almost come to blows with other attorneys that I talk to regularly and would have no problem having dinner with them.
Right. Like, no, we're not going to hang out all together all the time. Like, sometimes personalities just don't mesh or you're not going to be friends, but we can be professional and cordial outside of the courtroom, even when we've just had a very heated argument in front of the court.
So let me ask you this question. We've never had this conversation. I try more cases than you.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of our practice.
Of criminal world. Yeah.
You go into court. Most of the time, if your client is showing up, it's during a trial, right?
Yeah.
They're not there during the pretrial hearings. So for trial, how would you have your male client dress?
I typically tell them business casual.
That's what I say.
Yeah, khaki pants, button-down shirt, maybe a sport coat, just depending on what they're comfortable with. The last thing I want is a client that looks like they're out of their own skin.
Do you think it would differ for criminal defense?
Yeah,
jury trial. For
a jury trial in front of a jury, I think it might.
Yeah,
the more professional they look, I think probably the better. In a civil case, you want your client to be very relatable.
It's the same for criminal defense. So, when we go in and we're trying a case, my client, from the moment we walk in, people are looking, and the second they hear it's a criminal trial, they're thinking, what did that guy do?
Yeah.
And they're seeing a problem more than a person. And my goal in the way that they're dressing is showing that, and a lot of what I will say about them is showing that they are an actual human being
Right.
that is living life, and not just the defendant. I hear prosecutors, and I've actually called prosecutors out in closing arguments, never saying my client's name and only calling them the defendant through the whole trial, or calling alleged victims by name, unless it's in a very key point. Then they'll say the victim so that they can reemphasize a point. And I don't like it. I want it to be more of a human process than it is. And so I ask them to dress that way. But I also recognize that some people think that the courtroom should be in such a way that it's a more formal environment. Maybe they should dress more formally. So
maybe we should put on wigs and wear robes.
We did that one year for Christmas.
We did do that. That was fun. I do have another not me wardrobe story.
Hit me with it.
But it was a client. And we represent all kinds of people, both in your practice and mine. They can come from all sorts of backgrounds. And I had a very tragic case where a father was killed in a hospital because they did not, he was a fall risk. Everybody knew he was a fall risk, and they basically told him, you need to go do this. And he tried to do it, fell over, hit his head, and died. That's a very short synopsis. Very tragic case. And this family was very nice. They had had some rough times. And because of the sort of scenario and family dynamic, the family members had different attorneys, which happens a lot of the time. And it's appropriate and it's good. And so we're all sort of on the same side, but we're working together, but different attorneys.
Yep.
So I had one of the sons of this man, and just the sweetest guy in the world. And I really liked him, but he had had a rough life. And it showed. He had had some addiction problems. He had had some criminal problems, and stereotypically sort of dressed as if that had been part of his life. Talking like chains and piercings and tattoos on his face and on the arm. And I'm totally cool if that's your vibe. But you have to know when you go in on a civil case and are testifying, people might hold that against you.
Yeah.
And so we do a process in civil cases where they call them depositions, where they're asking questions ahead of time to kind of figure out what your testimony would be if you went to trial. And so a lot of times the defense lawyers and the insurance companies use those as an opportunity to gauge what will you look like as a witness on the stand if this goes to trial. So we want our clients to come across as best as possible. And I had a long conversation with this client of wear your Sunday best. He had been a church-going, kid. So he kind of knew what that meant. And we talked about it. And I said, listen, I don't need you to show up in a suit and tie, but, let's take out the piercings. Let's take out, let's not wear death metal shirts and things like that. And
like you would normally wear underneath your flannel, which we'll see in the next episode.
Yeah.
Got it.
I had an idea that I wrote down.
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to spill it now. I'm going to make you wear my flannel in the next episode.
That's perfect.
Have Steve wear my shirt.
Okay.
Anyway, nice guy. He shows up to my office and looked better than he normally did, but he was still in really, really baggy pants.
Yeah.
Chains, still some piercings. He had a beanie on that said something like Satan's, I don't know.
Right.
It didn't look great. And I'm like, listen, dude, we got to clear something. Oh, and he had all sorts of like chains and stuff down like on this. I'm like, let's take those off. Let's take the beanie off. It takes the beanie off, and it was like green and out and like blue and purple. And I was like, put the beanie back on, but let's fold the Satan thing underneath, because they were also videotaping this deposition. And so I was like, let's clean you up a little bit. I said, don't take anything else in, just leave your stuff here. And he goes in and he starts answering questions again. I loved this guy. And he was very sweet and very honest in his testimony and that sort of thing. But you could tell that he was being judged by the defense for the way he looked and some of the things that had gone on in his life. And one of the things that was in some of his medical records, and this was significant to the case because he had had some mental health issues following the death of his dad, that were, or at least compounded by the death of his dad, because he was very close with his dad. Anyway, but one of the things in his medical records was that they were looking at and asking him about was caffeineism. Have you ever heard of this?
No.
It's basically alcoholism, but to caffeine.
Really? That's a thing?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah.
How did I not have this as a teenager?
Right?
I drank
he's like, yeah,
a lot of caffeine.
I drink a lot of caffeine. And they're like, okay. And so we're going through, mind you, I had told this guy bring nothing in, and he walked in with nothing. And I shit you not, in the middle of his deposition, because you're allowed to like take a drink and things like that.
Sure.
He pulls out a 2 liter of Mountain Dew. Where this 2 liter came from, I have no idea. Like, he did not carry
Cargo
it in.
pants?
Like, I think it was in his pants somehow, and they were kind of those bigger, baggier pants, like very early 2000 style.
Like,
that would
Jinko jeans or something?
That would be like a guy that's hooked on Oxy popping one in the middle of the deposition.
He pulls out a 2 liter of Mountain Dew on camera, unscrews the top, and does this.
Does he drink the whole thing?
Not the whole thing, but
if
he's
it was
doing
like
that
Will
throughout.
Ferrell in it feels so good when it touches your lips. Or an Elf. There's 2 of them that he downs a lot. Yeah.
Hey, when you got to ride the Dew.
I went with the rated R version. You went with the PG.
And at that point, I was just like, you know what? Screw it. This guy's going to be who he is, and I should stop trying to control it. And, he came across, I'm sure they still judged him, but
Sure.
he was himself. And I realized I needed to quit trying to manipulate that and just let him be.
Yeah.
And he did a great job.
I think that's key. We always try to bring out lessons in these podcasts, and when you're coming to court, be yourself, but be the best version of yourself. I think that's the main thing. I've seen people in onesie pajamas show up to court, and not my clients, because I wouldn't let them do that. And they've gotten taken into custody. If it's a close call for a judge on something that happened, he brought him in like, no, you show no respect.
Yeah.
It just all we've talked about so far, the way that we've dressed and looked, and the stories go on and on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
There's a lot to it.
One of the first cases I ever had was I was working for somebody else. I was a law school student, and we represented a guy who was charged with going into Home Depot, going into the the place where they sell tools. I don't know what aisle that's called, and grabbing expensive tools and taking it up front.
The tool aisle?
That might be it. Taking it up front and returning it. And he would choose the ones that don't have the sensors on.
Yeah.
They're usually worth $100, $150. He'd take it up front, get store credit, and go buy whatever he wanted to.
So theft.
Yeah. But in Idaho, back in it still exists in a way, but it's actually a felony burglary, because if you enter a store with the intent to do this, with the doors opening up, it's considered breaking and entering. So this was a felony level. And in the videos from Home Depot, it was really hard. He had this the individual had a yellow hat that would kind of hang low. You couldn't see his face, and he would walk around, and it was clear that the person in the video was trying to hide their identity. Yeah. The state had, so the prosecutor had the cashier that had helped. This is before self-checkouts.
Yeah.
Had the cashier that was going to identify him, and the question is it him? His identity was the primary thing in question. Okay.
Yeah.
And he shows up to court and walks in with the same hat on. First off, going into court with a hat on, bad idea.
Is a bad idea. Yeah.
And the same shirt on. And I'm a law school student, and I don't know if this is considered, we're not supposed to hide evidence. We can't conceal evidence.
Yeah.
And my boss had me and him go into the bathroom, and we switched clothes, and I went home, and I didn't watch, and we ended up winning the trial.
Oh my God.
Because if he would have gone in and the jury would have seen him in that same damn shirt, he would have been convicted.
In the hat. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
But along those lines too, like I've had clients show up. One client showed up. He was on the hook for a couple of DUIs, and he had an alcohol problem. I knew it. He drank a lot. We were getting him into treatment. We were helping him out, but we were going to a sentencing at a DUI, and he showed up drunk. I mean, just stone cold drunk.
Yeah.
And that's a problem. Number one, don't show up drunk to court ever.
Right. Bad idea.
I've had it happen a few times, but he showed up and he not only was intoxicated, but he reeked of it.
Yeah.
And his clothes reeked of it. And just so happened, he and I are about the same size, which is odd because I'm 6'5" and he was about 6'3". And I had my gym clothes I was going to wear to go to the gym later, back when I actually exercised. But I took him into a bathroom and I stopped the door from opening, had him just shower off in the sink in the bathroom of a certain courthouse. And I'm sitting there going, you don't pay me enough for this. And had him put on my clothes, my gym clothes, to go into court. And we went in and I just requested a continuance. I didn't state a reason. The judge didn't inquire. I just said, Your Honor, because it's inappropriate to go to sentencing if your client is drunk.
Yeah.
And the judge said, no problem. We'll move it a couple of weeks. We went out. I got him into more treatment. And I wish it was a story that I could say, now he's doing great, but it didn't end up great. We tried for years and years and years to help him with his alcoholism, and it just never really connected, which is not the norm for my clients, but he's still having some battles.
Yeah, struggling.
But that day when he shows up, I'm like, oh my gosh. And I'm washing him off in a bathroom.
They don't teach us this stuff in law school.
No, they don't tell you anything like this.
No.
Like, hey, if you practice criminal defense, you're going to deal with mental health, which is a legitimate thing. You're going to deal with substance abuse. I mean, I literally had a client come down into a court 6 months ago. I will not state his or her name because the battle continues, and was very out of it. I again asked for a continuance. It was granted. And I learned much later, but I could tell he or her was, the client was in very rough shape. I learned afterwards that the client was in the hospital not 30 minutes after court, ODing.
No, geez.
Yeah. I mean, I know we were talking about funny stories. This isn't really funny, but that one, now the client is doing very well. It was a wake-up call, got into treatment, doing really, really well, and I'm proud of that client, but I won't mention gender or name.
We do a whole lot more than just go to court.
No, I mean, listen, for criminal defense, I know every mental health person around, whether it's for a specific need, whether it's alcoholism or truly mental health, anybody in our local community that helps people, I know them. I sit down with them regularly, and that's a big part of criminal defense. Everybody thinks, it's just how do you help bad people get away with things? That's like 1% of what I do is I look for loopholes or might go to trial or something along that vein. But the vast majority is how do you help people out?
Yeah,
and that's where I led with a conversation on wardrobe malfunctions. What's the worst? I'm bringing it back to sort of more funny. The worst thing you've seen somebody act in court that they are that they were just shut down.
Yeah. So I handled the case probably 10 years ago, 8 years ago. It was a partnership dispute. Two partners it had gone south. It didn't start out good from the beginning, and it just got worse from there. And they both ended up, trying to keep the business, and there was litigation that ensued. There was injunctions and, restraining orders on all sorts of stuff. Anyway, we ended up in the court to kind of sort some of that out preliminarily. And the judge...
This was already a crazy case, by the way.
It was a crazy case.
You and I were both involved. This was weird facts. It was nuts. Everything was weird.
Everybody was weird. There was this weirdness all around. And then we end up in court, and the judge who was going to sort out some of these initial motions was a very good judge, now on the Supreme Court. And as a good judge, he said, listen, I can hear these hearings all day today, or I'm happy to sit here, maybe give you some guidance on some of the issues, but you guys can see if you can work it out.
Good judge, by the way. That's an awesome approach from a judge.
And he goes, and if you can't, then we can, hear these motions. But, a lot of times this is more beneficial.
Yep.
Great judge, great tactic, especially for this case. I think the judge appreciated the craziness.
Mhm.
And so we spent hours. I sat in one room with my client, and the other attorney sat in the other room with his client, and we'd go back and forth, and we'd talk about a few things and say, hey, we'll do this, this, and this, and we can do this, this, and this. And we were close to getting to a deal. But I could tell that the egos were starting to get into it between the two business partners.
Yeah.
And I was like, we got to get this done. And I said, do you want this done, or do you want the craziness to continue? And he's like, I want it done. And I'm like, let's do this. And he's like, okay. And took it to the other side, and they said, yeah, we'll do that. Let's go put it on the record with the judge. That way this case will be over.
Yeah, once you put on the record, you tell the judge it's locked in, because now it's like writing it down and signing it.
Right. We've got a deal. It was a good resolution for all involved. And I could tell from the response of the other lawyer that perhaps the ego in his room was getting to be a bit much, and he wanted the craziness to continue just so he could be an asshole.
Yeah.
But we had agreed to things. We're coming back in, and we're ready to put stuff on the record. I'm sitting there with my clients, the other lawyer sitting there, and the other party comes walking in, and you could tell he's like, I don't want this to end. I want the crazy.
Yeah.
And he grabs his heart over here, by the way, which is like where everybody thinks your heart is.
Yeah.
It's actually like right here.
I didn't know that.
And he grabs over here and says, oh, my heart. And he falls to the ground. And I'm having a heart attack. I'm having a heart attack. And I'm sitting there, and my clients are looking at him like, yeah, no. And his lawyer's looking at him like, what the hell? And the judge is like, hey, can somebody call an ambulance? I don't want an ambulance. I want my lawyer to take me to the emergency room. And the judge is like, no, we're going to call an ambulance. He's, I won't go in an ambulance.
What is
I'm
lawyer
having
saying?
a hot. And his lawyer's like, his lawyer is a good friend of ours.
Yeah, I know the lawyer.
And he was just recently out on his own. And I think he kind of felt like he needed to do whatever his client wanted. So he's over there. He scoops him up, walks him out, and goes and drops him off on the emergency room. And he's like, I didn't stick around. I don't know if he actually went in or not. I'm sure he didn't. But the dude faked a heart attack in the courtroom in front of the judge just so he didn't have to put the deal that he had agreed to on the record.
Jeez.
And
That's
then
awesome. That's pretty good.
that case went on for what, like another 5 years?
Forever. Yeah, we ended up having to get out for some reason.
we had a
there was all
conflict.
sorts of weirdness. Yeah, I
The
felt
fake
bad on
heart
that
attack
case.
was
That,
probably
no,
my craziest.
no, that sounds like something out of Parks and Rec or something.
I've seen quite a few people, not my clients, go up and say, I don't recognize the authority of the state of Idaho and United States. And judges just go, all right, no authority, then I can't do anything with you. And when they're eventually convicted, because most of them represent themselves,
Yeah.
then I saw one judge, once a local magistrate guy goes up and says, I don't recognize your authority. I don't recognize the authority of probation officers. I don't recognize authority. And the judge says, well, then I don't have a choice but to show you authority and put him in jail. It was like a low-end misdemeanor, like a nothing type of case. I'm talking like disturbing the peace.
Yeah.
And the judge put him in for 180 days of jail because he's like, I don't know what else to do to you to send the message. And he said, but I'll set a status in a week. And just so happened, I was back that next week watching court, waiting for my own client to be called. The guy came in recognizing the authority.
Yeah.
And said, Judge, I will recognize the authority of you and probation. But I remember going, yep, he got the message.
7 is a whole lot better than 180 days in jail.
Yeah, exactly. And the judge was very humble about it and said, okay, thank you for that. And then I'll release you. I'll reconsider your sentence, released him to probation. And I don't know what happened from there.
Awesome.
The attorney we saw at lunch today was the attorney handling it.
Nice.
I remember talking to him afterwards. He was like, well, I told him he's got to recognize the authority. And I mean, what do you do?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You can't control your clients
no,
all the time.
no, you help, but
You try to help. Anyway.
yeah, our courtrooms are interesting places. I can't tell you how many times I've sat and I'm looking at the scene unfold going, there's nothing like this. I mean, I'm sure most people's jobs are that way too, but to take people everyday citizens. Vast majority of our population has been in a courtroom, whether you're called on jury duty, or you're now a witness, or you've been charged with something, or you've been in a car wreck. I mean, we all end up in a courtroom at one point or another.
Yeah.
They're important functions, but there's nothing like it. It's the weirdest place in our government and our society. I mean, it's just unusual all the way around. And we get to see fun things.
Yes, we do.
So we've got about 10 minutes left. I did a while ago, you were saying what it's like to interact with other lawyers. And it made me think of a fairly old meme at this point, and I want to see if it has any truth to either of you.
All right. Let me see this meme. How can lawyers argue without crying? I am a lawyer, and let me tell you, it gets like super close, dude.
That's true. Were you there for when the Supreme Court came to the law school? And they heard arguments up north.
Yeah.
And there was the one case where the lady was arguing like an open container. Like it was a low end.
And she started crying.
She started like crying. And that was her argument, was that she was just emotional about this. And there was no like legal basis for it. And she's just crying. And all of our professors were like, don't ever do that.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I can tell you, I tell most clients that I approach, when I come into the court, I turn off my right brain. That's what I tell clients is the emotional side, the more artistic side just goes away. I mean, and I'm more left-brained and try to view it as analytically as possible, see it for the problem. But there are cases. I mean, before Brian and I partnered up, I had a car wreck case that we took, and I really got to know the man that was injured in a car wreck. His son was a law school classmate of ours.
Yeah.
And we took it. It was disputed whether the injury that had happened to him, because he had had a surgery and a seat belt had been over one of his scars. And we had an expert testify that it had disrupted his scar tissue and it caused a lot of pain. And they had an expert saying no. But in the end, the jury sided with the defense and said, no, it didn't cause, and didn't award him any damages. And it really hit me hard.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I truly love a lot of my clients. I recently went to a jury trial that was declared a hung jury on one of my best friend's brothers. And I love both of them.
Yeah.
And it was harder. The cases that I'm closer to is harder on me. And it's a hard thing to set that aside, but most of the time I'm able to set it aside, see it, and go in, and I'm not going to say treat it like a game, because it's not a game. It's real people involved, but there
is a procedure to it, though.
Yeah, and it's more a mental exercise for me, without bringing in emotion.
Right.
But I know you've had moments to where you've broke down with clients, and I think your practice is more geared towards that. You see truly innocent people. And some of my clients are truly innocent, but people that are injured and out of nowhere, nothing they could have done to control it.
Yeah. And it's tragic in their lives.
Yeah.
I think about some that medical malpractice case we were just talking about the other day.
Oh, yeah.
That's another good one. I should tell the story real quick.
I did not mean to make it emotional. That was supposed to be a funny
This
meme.
part is funny. This part is funny.
Okay.
It was the birth of a baby, and the labor had gone on far too long.
That's right.
And there were some spots where this doctor just missed what was on the little strips that come out that monitor how the baby's doing. And the doctor just missed them, the baby was tanking essentially. And he didn't pick up on it, and kept her going through labor instead of doing a C-section. The baby ended up with so much oxygen deprivation. She had cerebral palsy, which is a common occurrence if you have oxygen deprivation at birth.
Right.
But part of these strips were important to the case, and one of the lawyers that we were working with on the case was old school. He wanted it hard copy. He wanted all of them. Well, those strips are like a mile long. This lady had been in labor for like 36 hours or something. I mean, it was crazy. So we had all these strips, and our partner had wanted them hard copy. And so like Sunday night, before the trial started, we were at like a Kinko's till well past when they were closing, shoving these little things into their large format printer so we could get them all continuous. And then we roll it out. And of course, nobody can see these little tiny lines on this huge thing. I mean, we're talking like it was like 4 feet high and probably 40 feet long.
Oh my
and
God.
One of my other partners and I are standing at opposite ends of the courtroom, like holding up this banner. We looked like cheerleaders waiting for the football team to run through.
Awesome.
It was just a disaster. And then we, once that happened, we kind of convinced the older attorney, hey, they've got these little projectors that you can just slide these under. And he's like, yeah, let's do that. So anything can happen in a courtroom.
Yeah.
Sometimes of our own creation, sometimes totally out of our control.
It's like live theater.
Yeah.
That especially when you're in trial, it's live theater that you don't know what the next line is.
Yeah.
I mean, you have prepped to where you think you know what the next line is. But like I was in a murder trial and had a gal take the stand, and she said, she testified it had to have been my client, and pointed at him and said it had to have been him, nobody else. And that was sort of the end. And then that night I go and I always look at if it's a highly televised case on Facebook, she literally gets on there and replies, it was him or these other people.
I remember this.
And so I called her to the stand, but it's like even after I go home and I'm sitting on my couch and looking at the news, I called her back to the stand and I cross-examined her and let the jury hear her have to waffle. Okay, maybe it wasn't him.
Immediately after testifying, it was him.
Like
or
within an hour.
Yeah.
Within an hour. And to spur it, it was like day 3 of the trial. And the person that led the conversation was a guy that was in the jury pool and was quickly kicked off because he wasn't a good juror. And now he's like following it on the news and putting in his input, which is why he wasn't a good juror.
Right.
And then she has this banter back and
Feeding
forth. And I'm going,
yeah.
You think what had happened, you're just in to try the case. And here you've got to like live it. Yeah. It's a part of your life. So really interesting things. We'll probably have more episodes like this.
Yeah, we will.
Oh, yeah.
To where we'll talk about the fun stuff.
At some point, I want to hear if you've had like a My Cousin Vinny moment.
There's been some of those.
Yeah,
we should do another lawyer TV/movie episode.
Oh, yeah.
I had one that the state beat me by My Cousin Vinny.
Really?
My client had told a story. We had tried to track down witnesses, and in fact, it was the prosecutor that I called Professor Umbridge. Kudos to her. We're in the middle of this hard-fought trial, and my client, we had given a defense, and it had some kind of key players that we couldn't track down, and I don't know how, but she had a private investigator for the state go and find this guy within hours. And I mean, I had been spending a ton of time. To this day, I don't know how they did it. There must be some hidden system that they had that I don't have access to. But sure enough, all of a sudden, this guy comes marching into the trial and cuts through my client's version of the events, and we lost that trial, unfortunately. But
wow.
It was a My Cousin Vinny that she had this aha moment, went and had this guy run out of the courtroom, come in and go, there's the guy that we're all wondering where he is.
Wow.
And I went, something is about to happen that's not good. And sure enough, it was a conviction.
No.
We do as much as you can, but again, it's live theater that you're like living it. You're in a client's world, and
when the plot kicks in, it kicks in hard.
Yeah, it's an interesting process. So
awesome.
Those are some of the funny moments.
We're about at closing time here. So is there anything you want to leave on?
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I look forward to wearing your shirt.
Yeah. Check out Steve's Dixon flannel, Steve Caballero model in the next episode.
You can buy it in our store.
Yeah, you need to. There's another plug. See?
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, so hopefully you learned a little something and had some laughs, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.